You are several years behind on your pop culture if you think that it's Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube, my apologies. YouTube, good night and welcome to Mindful Live 344. Again, my apologies for the terrible audio there at the beginning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Pleasant good night, Auto Tech. Nika Smiles asks, what do they want to hear? Well, I guess that's the question, eh? That's the question. What do they want to hear? White Leather says, use Gen Z slang. No cap. Bro, it's stressful for me to have to think about the slang and fit it in. I'm just not a part of that slang. I have to figure out a place to fit in all of this slang. Like, this isn't natural. No cap. That's the only one I could see. I saw a vid with a Gen Z Bible. It's genuinely starting to sound like Old English and Modern English. Have you seen the Tucker Carlson interview with Mother Russia, a leader? Not yet. That's on my watch list for after this very live. I'm going to take that in. They definitely don't want to talk about politics or the economy. No. That's of course not what they want to talk about. Who wants to talk about politics or the economy? Just you all old people with nothing better to do with your time. You've seen it already, Auto Tech, though? You've seen the Tucker Carlson interview? Doc Egg says, but I'm part of Gen Z. Is that so, Doc Egg? Welcome. I know there are some Gen Z viewers. I know I have some Gen Z viewers. Me and all. Gen Z could be all kind of 25, 26 even, eh? So, you have to watch it saying Gen Z. Gen Z, you could be 25, 26 talking about, I am proper Gen Z. While you're on the edge of millennial, really and truly there. What is old? Good question, Dean Khan. Very good question. And, you know, a problem that I see genuinely with Gen Z, though. You see, I know that, Doc Egg, you're trying to hit with the fake. You're a edge of Gen Z, edge of millennial, and trying to jump out here about Gen Z. When I say Gen Z, I'm talking about those squat in the middle of Gen Z, all kind of 18, 19, 20 years, 17, 18, 19, 20 years now, that kind of age group now. And I think Gen Z, one of the main identifying areas for Gen Z is 4 years of pandemic during a key schooling stage in life. If you're 25, that's you were 21, 20 when the pandemic hit. Not bad. You were already out of secondary school. For those who are writing CXC now, anyone writing CXC this year, that pandemic hit them Form 1. They had one good term of Form 1, and then that was it. Those writing SEA, Standard 1, one term, and that was it. And now they have to write SEA. And if you deal with those children, you're seeing it has an effect. It has an effect. 4 years basically of disrupted schooling during a key developmental stage in life is going to have a large effect. That's the Gen Z predicament. 4 years home on tabs. They have socialization problems. Well, some of them certainly. Cough, WHO. Well, I ain't saying you're wrong. I ain't saying you're wrong, but... And that's the thing, eh? When you look at actions, what's the result of that action on the other side? All right, stay home to save lives. Okay, you save lives, but what happened in the end? How much of the new recruits to the gangs? That's one of the points I always make. The gangs have a boom of new recruits from Gen Z. Look at a lot of the people who are dying or being arrested for some of those murders. It's young fellas, Gen Z. Imagine the government says crime is a public health issue. Imagine they say that. How are they going to deal with that public health issue then? I wonder. But yeah, on a Thursday, people, we're talking. So, crippled many economies, that's a fact. That's a fact. Many economies were crippled. So I'm looking for the youth. What youth, where you all in the live? What are we talking about? Such was the state of the WHO Kool-Aid they drank. And like the world drank. And to be honest, it seems like we're still drinking. And we're still a part of that. We're still unflinchingly, it seems, a part of that whole movement where, you know, you just follow everything the world says that you should do. Those global organizations. I think, you know, there should be a little reasonable buffer between us and them. Digicel, we have to talk. Why is my internet running so slow? Yeah, people, once you're on the inside, of course, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button there. If you're wondering, you hit that screen 2 times. And you can hit it again. And again, and again, and again, and again, and as many times as you like. Get those likes pumping. Allow the algorithm, our robot masters out there, the AI that is already ruling over us, allow them to know, hey, good stuff. I know it's tedious sometimes, but hey, it's just the reality of the online ecosystem we live in. Hit that like button, double tap that screen if you're looking at this over on YouTube. Do the same thing, hit the like button, drop a comment if you have something to say. You can head over to YouTube at any point in time and be sure to subscribe to Nathan the Spring over there, where you can catch the lives on repeat if you miss them. Catch that stream. Dean Khan says Fauci admitted before a Senate hearing that social distancing, etc. didn't work. Many of those things didn't work. A lot of it was kind of Simon Says-y. It was like Simon says, put up your hand. Simon says, stand 6 feet apart. Simon says, wrap your front of your store in plastic like it's going to do something. You know, a lot of it was a bit Simon Says-y. And when you have people in authority, sometimes you end up with the problem of them thinking they always must make an active decision at every moment. Well, sometimes they don't have to do that. Consider the use of directed energy weapons and drones driven by AI in the next conflict, Curvon says. Curvon, you're thinking very forward. Directed energy weapons, wouldn't that be like even they had a heart attack gun since something like the 60s or something like that? If you have directed energy weapons and they're on drones that are hard to even identify, that's a scary thing. How you even know when they come through? When some were exempt, it resembled theater. It was theater. Simmons says, hand over your rights to dictate and tell them to lock down your country. Yeah, people, questions or comments on the inside? Last night we were talking a bit about that oil spillover in Tobago, where it seems still there are more questions than answers. Whose boat was that? How does an entire large fishing vessel flip over, spill oil? We have no idea who was on board or anything. We have no idea who owns the vessel or anything. It's just there. What on earth is that? I was thinking about how our country has much intelligent people and yet still our development isn't that fast, I'd presume. Well, to develop as a country isn't just about the intelligence of the people. It's about the systems of production, the systems of governance. Like, if you think about it, unless you want to go down a dark road, by and large, humans are human. Human beings all have a high capability for intelligence, for productivity, for all sorts of different things. Yet still, when you look all over the world, you look at different cultures, you look at different countries, you see people with different outcomes. There are some societies that flourish, some societies that flounder, some societies that starve and cease to exist. It's not just about the human potential and ability, because I wouldn't say that the societies that failed over time, it's just that the human beings that made up those societies were of an inferior build. I wouldn't say that. I'd say that it has more to do with the structures that govern those societies. And the structures that govern Trinidad, the structure that governs Trinidad and the structures by extension, I think they're unsuitable for the kind of development we're looking to see. We're a country that came out of colonialism that still is governed with that colonial edge, in my opinion. So how far do we expect to advance? Colonies don't advance that far. Colonies aren't meant to advance that far. Geography plays a big deal too as to why we're not advancing, or as to why there are differences in advance. Yes, 100%. As to why some societies advance better than some. Yes, geography has a large part to play too. But I would say a lot of it, even with geography, what the geography often does in that Thomas Sowell book and presentation, oftentimes what the geography does isn't that the geography directly affects some physical outcome. No, what generally happens oftentimes is the geography affects a social outcome. So because you are in the hinterland, it means that your men go on longer expeditions, so you don't have as much of a unified nuclear family, and that changes the family dynamics of your culture. So it's not that the geography changed the outcomes itself, it's the geography had an effect on the culture. And again, it's the culture, that difference in governance, difference in management, that had the direct impact on the different outcome very often. But Trinidad and Tobago shouldn't have that difficulty with geography. We are well positioned. Like, if you were choosing a spot on the world map, you couldn't really choose a better spot than Trinidad and Tobago. We have the tropical weather, while we have some of the benefits of mainland South America flora and fauna. We have natural gas. We have the benefit, though, of being so much below the island chain that we don't get blasted by hurricanes very often. You couldn't have chosen a better spot generally. So geography isn't the problem with Trinidad and Tobago, I might say. Japan? Nah. Japan isn't a better spot. Earthquakes, tsunamis. What makes Japan better? Bro, I wouldn't doubt the Japanese, if they could have switched with Trinidad and Tobago, they might have. Well, no, they are very much attached to their homeland. But in terms of general geography, Japan isn't a better located place than Trinidad and Tobago, really and truly. Really and truly, they aren't. If you put the Trinidad and Tobago government to manage Japan, and you put the Japanese government to manage Trinidad and Tobago, I think Japan may crash within a year. And Trinidad and Tobago might be the jewel of the Caribbean within 5. Have you ever seen those Japanese bridges that crumble during the earthquakes, and they have nuclear plants that were threatened by tsunamis, and they repair those things within less than a week time? Can you imagine Trinidad and Tobago governance and governance structure trying to repair after tsunamis and earthquakes? Can you imagine our government managing a nuclear plant? Listen. That sounds like a global disaster waiting to happen. Watch Wasa. Every week, a leak that they fix rupturing again, and we would want the state to manage nuclear power plants and stuff. Whew. What would the impact of repatriation of large amounts of Trinis back home? Would it help innovation? By repatriation of Trinis back home, you mean birth Trinis from the United States and United Kingdom, bring back here? If we do that, if that was done, would there? No. I don't think necessarily there would be innovation. I think the key for innovation in Trinidad and Tobago is to open up our free market, allow people to benefit from their own labor more, and then you would attract those people back here. If Trinis who migrate look back at Trinidad and see low crime and a nice business atmosphere, they would reinvest quickly. So I don't think it's about repatriating those people. The two things, crime and ease of doing business. I think if we have our violent crime and somehow wipe the PNM's ideological brain clean and give them a much more free market, open understanding of the economy, if we do those two changes, the innovation in this country will skyrocket. I have always been saying this, I've always been highlighting this. To me, when I look at the younger generation, I see entrepreneurship and innovation without bounds. Every young person is attempting to open some kind of business, be some kind of entrepreneur, carry their skills on the open market, and I love it. I just hope that we get a governance structure that doesn't smack down all of these young people as they continue doing these things. That we get rid of this old PNM mentality that we all get old, get educated, and go and work for the government. That we follow like Frankie in Tobago, for those of you who are here for that story, and figure out our skills and leave the government work. Ease of business is the real problem. Crime only affects locals. No, crime doesn't only affect locals. Crime affects business greatly. Crime increases the cost of doing business. Crime increases the difficulty of doing business. Bear in mind, if you are a business person, you may want to at least fly in and see your business occasionally. Crime decreases the prospect of doing such a thing. Kevon says that's what I like about them. They aren't job seekers. They want to produce. Yep, a lot of young people are like that, and I encourage it. I love it. Register all your businesses, make it all a business. You're all doing businesses, you're all entrepreneurs out there. Do your thing. Post your little motivation every morning about the hustle and your way to make it, and the struggle and the way up and how to see money, and you post it all, bro. Little bro, you do your thing, make your business, go up there. I like it. And I think what we need more of in the country is the facilitation of such things. Make it so that as people succeed, the criminals don't take it all from them, and make it so that as they succeed, the government doesn't inhibit them from doing it. That's it. To me. Need a little Elon Musk in TT. We may have some already, but they're trying to get around the bureaucracy right now. That might just be it. Bear in mind, Elon Musk's family, and he himself was born in South Africa. For some reason, what he's doing, he wasn't able to do in South Africa. There may even be a lesson in that, eh? Like I'm not a pusher of immigration, but I could understand the reason some people do it. It's a kind of clear, obvious reason to me. The thing is, some people don't have clear enough perspective of the fact that the world still remains the world out there, and Trinidad isn't unique in all the bad things, but I could understand why, definitely. And particularly with the crime situation, you see, the thing with crime, even beyond the ease of doing business, the thing with crime is it's so frustrating. If business there was this high level of red tape and bureaucracy, but I know, okay, it might take 5 years for me to do this, but I can get through it. This, all right, at least there's a path forward. But if it is that I could be working all as hard and diligently as I can, and then any given night someone could come and steal everything I have and wipe out my family, whoa, that's the kind of thing that really inhibits business. That's the stuff that frightens people really and truly. What going on, Trini Hotep?
I like the topic, man. I like the topic. What's interesting is that I think I watched a video. Like 2 days ago about the CCP and the internal kind of struggle of the CCP, which people would think that it doesn't have an internal struggle of governments now, right? Even though it's one party. What's interesting, the current president of China, it's interesting. He's like a Mao Zedong, but he doesn't want to be associated with Mao Zedong, which is interesting because he's an autocrat, right? And what's interesting is that I think some time ago he forcibly removed the former General Secretary out of the Parliament, which was interesting. And I think he coalesced some power in there, and he has kind of locked down power and state organization or whatnot, which is interesting because I kind of juxtapose that with current government, right? Our current government likes to coalesce power into a very centralized stronghold system. You know what I'm saying? State run everything. And I've realized is that, the CCP is the CCP, obviously, but not everybody in the CCP wants to do the total autocratic kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? They want to do the kind of, spreading of powers a little bit around the place now, factions, that kind of thing. So what I've realized is that with the current president of China is like he wants total governance of the economy. Like he wants everything state run. Everything must be going through the hands of the government, which I find to be obviously horrible because, sir, have you not looked at the history of your country? The history of your country has not been that over.
You see, Hotep, the thing with that one party rule and the technique they use, and as you mentioned in Trinidad and Tobago, and if anybody happens to be a PNM lover and feels hurt that I speak so negatively about the PNM so regularly, it's because they are the ones that are in governance right now. But the thing with the PNM party was engineered in a sense to function very similar to that kind of CCP style. And the way those parties function in the country is that they are the only party that goes up for elections, but the way they convince or attempt to convince the population that it isn't just autocracy and dictatorship and we run everything is that internally there's pulling and tugging inside of the party. There is competition and election inside of the party. One group could ascend, some one group could descend, some one group gets into power and pushes out the other group and things like that. And in a sense, the PNM functions pretty similarly to that, where the PNM boasts, in fact, that they have a very strong internal mechanism wherein they are not solidified internally. They listen to the grassroots. So the grassroots could go to the PNM General Council meetings and they have their committee, and then the committee goes to this and they bring this to that, and then it moves its way up. And the idea being, you don't have to feel bad about it being one party, because inside the party there's room for disagreement. There's room for us to not all follow the same line. But the unfortunate reality of that is that consolidation becomes very easy when there's one party. So yeah, there may be competition inside of the party. Yeah, during an internal elections, Penny go up against Rowley and she has her team and that. But when he wins, all of the others are consolidated into one, or they disappear. And in a country like China, that becomes very literal. Either you bow and kiss the ring, or you may literally disappear. So the one party rule, the trick is, well, we have internal disagreements, but the reality is it's still one party. That's our PNM for you. That's our PNM for you. I think if you were basically to ask the PNM their view on how Trinidad should be run, they may say something very similar to how China is run. Like, honestly, if you were to ask Dr. Rowley, do you think that Trinidad and Tobago no, I'm speaking of China specifically, not North Korea. China and North Korea are not the same place. If you believe Trinidad and Tobago should be under the leadership of the PNM only for the foreseeable future, he would say yes. And probably since Dr. Eric Williams' days, he may say yes. That's what they believe, I believe. And the problem with that, when you combine that with the belief of the central planning, is not only should we be in charge, but we believe that we understand how to make the decisions on behalf of everyone too. And that's where things start to get dangerous and scary. So the party members vote the leader or a committee. I believe the party members vote directly for the leader inside of the PNM. But as with all elections, one of the difficult things is who determines who are the candidates to be voted for. Like our general elections, when we go, and if we go the next time and see Kamala and Rowley, to me that's a direct spit in the face of the constituents. They're telling you you have no choice in who you choose to vote for. We tell you you could choose between hell and Hades. That's your choice. And we tell you you have choice here. So it's not just about who gets to vote, but who gets to choose the candidates that go up in the first place.
Yeah, you know what is like. Yeah, every time I watch every time I really watch certain countries, especially like China, and that kind of style of governance now, but is like, that's the PNM's governance. The PNM would gladly control all forms of the economy through state enterprises and forever. They would not want any, they would never want any sort of ease of doing business, any sort of free market whatsoever, you know. And luckily enough for China, before this current president, they had a general secretary that was willing to open the economy economy to some sort of free market, or else they wouldn't have or else they wouldn't have been the industrial force that it is today.
But
So,
in a sense, Hotep, in a sense, that worked to the great benefit of the new leadership, because now the new leadership got economic power that they could bargain and move around with. Because of the easing and relaxation in policy that was done previously. Jackie said, but those aren't the only choices on a ballot, though. We have it so. Here's the thing, Jackie. How do you decide who gets placed on a ballot? How do you decide that? You have no choice in that matter. That's determined if somebody is willing to pay the fee to the EBC. Now, in order to be viable to even win prime ministership, you have to win a majority of seats. That's a deposit in all of those seats as a party. So there's a monetary limit already. Because of the nature of the electoral system, there are already people in place as governors in those places. How do you suppose the citizens of this country change who they vote for? How do we do that? Do you suppose? Seeing as it's we have it so. I am part of the we. I would like to not have it so. How do I stop that? Tell me step by step. Me, Nathan Springer. No. I'm not ask me a question. I am asking you a question. What do I, Nathan Springer, do? I am part of the we. You said we have it so. I would like to not have it so. I want to change it from it being so. How do we go about changing it from it being so? First step, what do I do? Which direction do I walk? What do I say? What do I point? Who do I punch? Who do I jump up for? Who do I vote for? Who do I quarrel with? What do I do? Seeing as we have it so. Or maybe it's not exactly we that have it so. We met it so.
we have it. Came and meet our system here. Like, we were given a system that we did not create in Trinidad and Tobago. We were given a political system that just doesn't work for us. That's just the truth of the matter, right? It's not like America, where America got the chance to figure out what system works best for them. No, we accepted a system that revolves around picking the lesser of two evils. We don't even get to decide who is the candidate we really choosing from. A party puts out candidates, and that's it. We choose from the candidates that they put out. We don't even get to say, well, that man, we don't like.
Hotep, as you say that, I think, is the cup still around? I believe in name only. As you say that, that may have actually been the best idea, to attempt to create a governance style unique to us that works for us. And that's what the US did, at least attempted to do. And to me, it functioned relatively well for them. That's, as it were, what the British did. And we tried to borrow theirs, and it doesn't function as well. Maybe because of the nature of the division among race in Trinidad and Tobago, maybe it would have made more sense to have more decentralized power in governance. That you don't have mayors in cities, you have governors over districts. Maybe that might have made more sense than attempting to unify the entire thing as one solid block. Maybe that might have made more sense, but we didn't even get a chance to discuss that and decide. We just went with what was borrowed. But there aren't just two evils, though. This is what I am saying. Okay, so how many candidates for prime minister were there in the last election? Because, Jackies, you understand, in our electoral system, We don't vote for prime ministers. We don't vote for prime ministers. So that's what I'm asking you. You saying it's we have it so. What do I do to change? Who do I vote differently for? So I vote in Couva North. What do I do? What should I do when I walk down to my voting station? What should I do on that day if I don't want Dr. Rowley and I don't want Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar? What should I do differently from now till the voting day and thereafter when they count the results? I don't want either of the two of them. What do I do? How do you get someone else in our system? No, you cannot. That's the answer, Trini Hotep. You cannot. Even if Fashion USA, as you stay home. You still won't make a difference. You still won't make a difference. Even if I were to amalgamate all the people in Couva North, I do the best. I talk till my voice turn blood on the roads and beat the roads and and get people to vote for a different candidate. I put up myself as an independent candidate for Couva North, and let we see. I ain't lost my deposit, which is very likely what's going to happen. But I win, and I am the MP for Couva North, even if I could get that far. I would be an outside member of the opposition. That's what I would be, if you understand how our electoral system works. Because I would not be part of the government. The government would be the party that got the most seats. There would still be a party that gets the most seats. That party will choose their leader as prime minister. And I'm still just sitting in parliament on a backbench there, not even part of the opposition party. And that's in the unlikely possibility that I could somehow work out how to take this seat all on my own.
That's the funny thing, right? That's why a two-party system, Westminster two-party system, is a very tricky thing. Like, it's very hard in order to get in a sort of multi-party thing going on where parties have a sort of equal opportunity to win. So it's like, okay, the PNM was founded long ago, right? The PNM was founded before even UNC was founded, right?
Yes, way before.
Okay, so you have a man who founded the PNM. He founded it. He said, this is how we're going to run the party. Fine. He got power for a long time. And in establishing the independent nation of what it is that, okay, he said that we are going to hold internal elections inside the party. Only party members voted. The public don't vote in PNM, in PNM party politics, right? We don't get to vote who's leading the PNM. Only people who in the PNM get to vote to do that. So let's say, yes, people vote for Rowley. Rowley is now the party leader. Now Rowley is the man commanding the forces and saying, well, you know, you go there, you go there, you go there, you. Right, so he gets into that's how he get partisanship. He once people in the party vote for him, then he get to call the shots and say, well, we go put you all over the place and you go.
Exactly. That's the point I always say about this system, Trini Hotep. This system doesn't cause the MPs to have to be loyal to their constituents. The MPs must be loyal to the party leader because it's the party leader that puts them. You were asking about the governorship in the US, Jackies. No, it's not that in the US, as long as you're voted for governor, you're in the running to be president. That's a whole separate thing. That's kind of what I was talking about, probably being a better thing for here. Governor is local. Governor is the person who runs each state, and the idea is nearly that the state is, to a certain extent, as it were a self-contained country. Nearly. That's their idea. So it's 51 experiments on how to govern. The governor gets a lot of power in their own state to govern locally. That's a different thing. That's a whole different governing setup. In that local governing, there's the state house, and there are also state senators. So there's a whole local governing setup. Then on top of that, there's the national setup that is separate. And you vote for the president separately. You vote who you want as president. You vote who you want to represent you in the Congress. You vote who you want to represent your state, your district in Congress, your little, well, not small, but relatively small neighborhood district. That's who represents you in the Congress. And then you vote who represents your state as a senator. There are 2 of those per state. That's a whole laundry list of different levels of governance that you all get to select for. While in Trinidad and Tobago, the kind of system we have is basically like if we vote for the Congress only, we just vote for the representative for our area, and that representative for our area is going to select the main leader, the prime minister. That representative is basically going to get to select the senators. That representative, to some extent, well, the only thing they won't get to select is local governance, because we have a local government election. However, our local government has very little power. That's why they were talking about the local government reform, where the intention is to give more power to the local government. Sorry, I don't have a great amount of faith in them decentralizing that power and releasing power from the central government to local governments. I don't have much faith in that. What I'm talking about is nearly like the idea of, you see what Tobago asks for regularly, the greater autonomy. It's like if every area in Trinidad were to function to some extent like that. There was the Tobago House of Assembly, the Chaguanas House of Assembly, San Fernando House of Assembly. Every area was, to a larger extent, self-governed. And then we come together as individually self-governed districts to unite together to work for the best of our larger district. And I think that kind of model may actually work well to extend further. If you had that kind of model, to me, to extend that model throughout the Caribbean would have been an easier thing, because you already have that representative model carrying up to the larger scale. But to try to just unite all as one big together group, all are we is one family, all are we are not one family. And when we try to pretend like that, bacchanals happen.
That's what I'm saying. I know here not too small for that, because I think we already kind of break up Trinidad into counties.
Just now at Trini Hotep, and here's a thing with that, and you might like this line of argument, Trini Hotep. That line is so anti-black. You see, many of the Europeans went to Africa and found Africa functioning with a model like that. Tribes could have been as small as 50 people, and they functioned like that. And when there weren't wars being triggered by different reasons, that was actually the better way to function. It increased trade. It allowed a better, a easier way of communicating with each other, because the reality is we subliminally function like this already. We are more loyal to our in-family group and our in-neighbor group. So it's better that we try to function at that level. People are not as loyal to the wider Trini as they are to their family living next door. And that's the governance system that you use.
I believe Trinidad not that small for that model. We already cut up Trinidad into counties. That's one. We already cut up Trinidad into municipalities, right? So if we already cut up Trinidad into municipalities, which we already have a kind of local government structure, then I don't think Trinidad is too small to have to cut up Trinidad into localized system. We have counties and municipalities for that already. So it's like, come on.
And Hotep, like I was saying, and like you were talking about earlier, the idea that we need to mimic somewhere else, I'm using the US as the example because that's where it happens as it is like that. But I think our limited economy size is small for that model, though. I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. I don't think any economy is too small for that model. That's just a model of smaller management. And which companies are more efficient? Are smaller to medium companies more efficient, or are mega companies more efficient? Like, I don't understand why that's even a wonder. Like, would it be more efficient to run the country with smaller levels of governance? I think that's nearly self-explanatory if you look at it like that. And we're using the US because that's the present example that exists. But in that we borrowed our governance systems. We never even attempted to try to be indigenous about it. Maybe that's what you need to do. Understand, okay, we are smaller. It's not that it's going to be the same thing as a state, but some kind of form of closer governance down to the ground level. And I think especially with the nature of the divisions that Trinidad has, and I'm speaking specifically about the racial divisions, I think that would work much better.
Yeah, I think
Which countries just now, Trini Hotep? No, smiley face. Which countries are better? Go ahead, Trini Hotep.
yeah, I think something along the lines of Canada, but just not how Canada does decentralized liberalism. Canada is broken up into like, I think what, 8 or 9, somewhere around the 8 or 9 kind of, they don't call it states, right? They call it, I think they call it, it's almost like municipalities, right? Ontario, Quebec. So they have their own state governments, obviously, right? And I think provinces, right? So it's a province, right? So Ontario is a province, Alberta is a province, and they have their own state government, and they get to localize whatever, but they obviously get federal funding, which is fine. I think that might be something that might be more in the line, because obviously, I think about Canada is, Nathan, is that Canada runs on a Westminster system.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's very similar to ours. So I think that would be more closer to us than an American, state federalism system per se. I think a Canadian style, how it does that there, the provinces might be better. You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. A Canadian style with tweaks, and that's kind of the point I'm making. Something unique. That's a unique thing. Luxembourg, what an example. Luxembourg, but Luxembourg is what percentage all white? So basically, the country we have to mimic is all white. So what we have to do, get rid of our racial diversity to mimic Luxembourg. You see, that's the thing. When many people talk about countries that are better, they talk about.
You say Luxembourg is the most sound economic country. No, they just have a high per capita. That's a high, like.
Because they're a tourist country in the middle of a colonial hotspot. It's where the colonial wealthy people went and settled after. It's so ridiculous to me. And some of these people are the most anti-colonialist people that talk things about this. The reason some of those countries are that kind of wealthy is colonial dollars flowed in and they had to work nothing for it. What was Luxembourg's natural resource that they used to such great skill that gave them all of that high wealth?
They have none. It's pure immigration. It's pure tourism.
Right. And not only just tourism from white Europeans of the same culture. So it's like if you found a place where all the wealthy people in West Trinidad went on island. They went on holiday. So let's say some one of those down the islands, and it's exclusive, where only the wealthy people from the west of Trinidad go and they holiday there and they have their homes there. And you go and watch that island and compare it to Beetham. Like, come now, man. Come now, man. Let's be reasonable. Did it? Or is it that they abused Africans, stole their labor as free energy, converted it to money, and stored it there? And that's what you're saying is a better system. Luxembourg. Of all the countries, and what I asked is, you said, let's compare it to a better country than the US. Okay, why is Luxembourg better than the US? What makes Luxembourg better than the US? And I'm not saying this as a massive US fan. I have a laundry list of criticisms constantly for agriculture. What agriculture Luxembourg has, sir?
Agriculture.
The man says agriculture.
Well, I'm looking up here, and actually, is the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. There's a constitutional monarchy.
I know. I know.
And the thing is, yes, they do have the highest GDP, but I mean,
we just went through how they have the high GDP. This one says agriculture. So you think Luxembourg's GDP comes from them planting what exactly? What is Luxembourg known for? Do you get your pumpkins from Luxembourg, sir? Are all the world's beets sourced exclusively from Luxembourg? What, pray tell, is this grand agriculture that Luxembourg has?
Agriculture employed 2.1% of Luxembourg active population in 2010. Yeah, boy.
Like, come on, man. And that's kind of the point I regularly make with the comparisons of countries. Which country you're trying to compare to? And if you're trying to compare a multicultural country to a country that is homogeneous, you're doing a dishonest comparison already. And what I'm attempting to do, what I'm attempting to point out with a change in even the electoral governance political system is to attempt to utilize that same trait where we recognize homogeneous countries are better functioning. That's just a fact. We could not like it, but homogeneous countries function better because the people are unified. It's easier to unify the people. So wouldn't it make more sense to attempt to run your country as smaller, more homogenized groups that work together? That makes sense to me. Autotech says Brazil. Sir, no. Behave yourself.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that Luxembourg is really known for in terms of the economy and what drives the economy really and truly. They're stating that it's a stable and high income market economy, and okay. You know what I'm saying? I listen, Luxembourg people obviously they get to have low inflation and all that good stuff, right? So they get to be rich. People, the average Luxembourg.
But they don't get to be rich. You have to be rich and then you go to Luxembourg. That's how it goes. It's not that the Luxembourgans are so wealthy all on their own. It's that they're wealthy and then they go to Luxembourg. It's like Dubai, as it were. You go to Dubai and see all of these people driving luxury vehicles. All of them didn't make that money inside of Dubai. It's not like all of that money is necessarily there to be made right there on that location. It's where the wealthy people go to gallivant. So if you see it there, that's not necessarily a statement of the wealth building capacity of that place.
That's interesting. So yeah, the immigration population increasing in 20th century, and Portuguese people actually make up the largest immigrant population. Interesting enough. So yeah, I think if they combine most of the immigrant population, I think they would actually outnumber what would be considered ethnically the people of Luxembourg.
Bro, and really and truly, when you talk about ethnically the people of Luxembourg, it's no big difference to ethnically the people of Portugal or ethnically the people of France or something like that. No big difference. There's no big difference. Trinidad being compared to Europe, I feeling so proud. Well, actually, that person was comparing the United States. That was the person who said don't use the US as a base because there are so many countries better. And if there are so many countries better, I would have hoped that it would be so easy to name them.
Yeah, I mean, we had if we use that country, we had to use the country that is on the superpower level and is the country that nobody never say America is the greatest country in the world, but people have to be serious. America grants you a lot of freedoms that many countries do not. They
Man,
give freedom of speech, able to bear arms, able to talk wherever you want to talk, live how you want to live. Come on, man. Able to make money, a freer market.
Autotech, again, all the countries you name are much more homogeneous. Much more homogeneous. And, alright, Switzerland, you might go with that. Ireland, go look at the net migration of Ireland. Are more people just running to move there? Look at the net migration of Russia. Are people rushing to move to Russia? Finland, again, homogeneous countries. Homogeneous countries. Homogeneous countries that are very old. A country that has been in the same place with the same people for the last 1,000 years, believing the same thing together. Well, yeah. You're going to compare them with Trinidad that's 60 years old and a bunch of different people slapped together from all over the world?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Russia hasn't changed demographics.
And even in the United States case, they are much more multicultural than all of those countries. The melting pot of all over the world where everyone is entering, and especially with this last government that is running the US, inviting in something like 10 million migrants per year or something like that. Yeah, it's not the same thing to compare running those two places. USA is all APAC. I believe you mean APAC with an I, AIPAC. And that's going down a certain very Israeli road that we don't necessarily have to go down. That's true. You know, people just forget Trinidad is only 1 or 2 generations. Yeah, we are youths. We are babies in the dance. We are babies in the dance. And then on top of it, the multiculturalism. People discount how difficult that is to deal with. People discount how difficult that is to deal with.
Yeah, man, it'd be funny, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man, that doesn't make any sense. You know
Listen, in Trinidad, watch it. If you're the government and we're going through the festivals, when you donate money to Carnival, there are people who would be angry about you donating money to Carnival. If you donate money to Eid, there are people who would be angry about that. To Diwali, people might be angry about that. To Christmas, people might be angry about that. We had the Trinity Cross as the highest award. There were people upset about that. It's a balancing act because there are so many different ways of life. There are so many different ways of life, outlooks on living. And they all have to be able to coexist and hopefully be equal in the land. What if one religion says you can marry children at 12?
I don't think this person quite understand. Any country that has been formed, any country that has been independent for 50 plus years, which is like the whole of Africa and the Caribbean basically, and South America and Central America, brethren, they will never be ahead of countries that hasn't even had colonization. That doesn't make sense. Like, America might be the only country that could actually boast and say, well, we come out of colonization and we have bolstered our country up. fight a civil war to do that. Trinidad and Tobago fight no civil war. Just handed the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like Africans didn't fight a civil war to run their country and govern it how they feel. No, they were handed it. Actually, some of them buy it. Nigeria was a whole project of buying and selling. You know what I'm saying? So the thing about it is that we kind of had to get to the point of Trinidad is not going to be a superpower. Trinidad is not going to beat out other countries. But Trinidad and Tobago needs to know how to operate on the world stage. We are still a country. To know how to operate on the world stage is what we have. Can't throw out everybody and make it a homogeneous country. You know what I'm saying? So we had to know how to operate. We had to know how to move. And hey, that's my middle ground. Because as radicalized, I could really get really extremely radical. on some real stuff, you know what I'm saying? Like I hear yesterday about sanction in the US. I might sanction every damn single country in the world till we get some purchasing power parity. So I'm saying, so it doesn't make any sense. Like Trinidad and Tobago being a colony country. No, come on, man. And beat back anybody. Not at all.
But part of the reason I think we don't beat back anybody is not just the history of the colonization, but what so many of us held on to after colonization. Many of the African countries and Caribbean countries and South American countries grabbed on to some kind of version of socialism. Now, granted, there was all kind of mischief being played by the US and the European powers that made capitalism seem not that much alluring because, yes, of a large section of the 20th century, when they said capitalism, what they actually meant is allowing the US hegemony, the US massive corporations, to come into your country and run roughshod. Because they have larger corporations. If they come into your small country, they would be able to strip it out of everything and they are the ones to benefit and you don't. Granted. Now, what that caused to me when I look at the history is that many people looked at that and said, well, capitalism is a bad thing. Capitalism is advantage and oppression because those people are using their capital to try to oppress us. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold on to more socialist style beliefs. And that created red tape, mountains of red tape inside of these countries, making it nearly impossible to get things done. You hear business people talk about getting things done in Africa, and that's a lot of the problems that they talk about. The same problems that we talk about here, where the government is involved in every stage of this thing, and they are the ones who select who are the winners and losers. You have to wait on some signature from some person and carry the paper here and carry the paper there, and it encourages a corrupt society because people see that they have to pay bribes and grease the wheel to get it all running. That's the societies that we created. That's not necessarily a colonial thing, but a decision of the people afterwards.
Yeah, like that's just the truth, man. Like, you see, I don't understand, like.
Yes, Jackies. Just now to answer Jackies. One of my colleagues argued that the Caribbean leans more on Marxism. Do you agree? 100% yes. And if you listen and read, you could literally go read. Read Maurice Bishop. There's literally Castro. Go Marcus Garvey, go Eric Williams, Ralph Gonzalez. Read what these men say. And they didn't really hide it. A lot of them leaned pretty heavily down that left wing.
Well, I think Garvey was more leading in the realm of capitalism in terms of bolstering the power. But that's one thing. But the thing is yeah, and I kind of understand because what person would want to adopt the system of somebody who have colonized them, right? Like, oh my God, why would I accept that? Like you take my cup and you give me back my cup and I must take back my cup. I don't want your cup. I don't want your cup. I don't want your cup. Take your cup and go. So in terms of it, we could look at Zimbabwe, right? Mugabe. the fact that Robert Mugabe fight for the independence of Zimbabwe. But, bro, you did not do anything that was going to give Zimbabwe a fighting chance to play great in the continent. Zimbabwe dollars is piss poor on the market. It's basically nothing.
And a lot of that is when you. All right, yes, some people were bad, but if you go and be worse, that doesn't make you good. If you go be evil to evil people, that doesn't make you good. And when what a lot of what Mugabe did is he went in the other extreme, and permanently damaged his country to a large extent. Permanently damaged his country to a significant extent. I think capitalism will happen anyway of the next few generations, whether we want it or not. A lot of wealth is going to be passed to future generations soon. Maybe, but socialism has a way of rearing its ugly head nonetheless. There's still a tendency to do that. And what you're saying there, Hotep, about the not accepting the ideologies of your oppressors, it makes sense. I understand why people may not want to do that, but at the same time, if I was fighting an enemy military and they had a technique of arranging their army that made it the most efficient military force in the world, and somehow I survived, would that mean now, because they were my enemy and they had the most efficient planning setup, I would refuse to accept and use that? That would be kind of asinine of me, whether they were my oppressors or not.
Because I think it happened many times. It happened many a times in the ancient world. And we all know the ancient world used to fight the most. The Greeks and the Romans have used all the tactics that they put out on the table.
Yeah.
The Romans have adopted things from the Greeks. The Romans have adopted things from many other places they've conquered. That's the truth, right? The Sumerians and the Egyptians adopted a lot of things from each other, and they used to fight each other every single day because they're right next to each other. And that's how the world has progressed. Innovation is just that. I don't think that, I understand, but I don't think that rejecting capitalism to then take on an ideology from the same white man who would have probably oppressed you too, to say that you want to be antithetical to what? That doesn't make no sense. Marx is a white man, he's German.
And quite racist. He was very racist.
Exactly, that's the funny thing to me, man. Like,
the man hated the Negras. He was one fat, racist, old lazy brute. And we have a set of people out there. The thing that hurt me by Hotep is when I found out the whole idea of the black fist out there was a whole communist sign too.
Yeah.
Like, bro.
And I mean, I understood where Kwame Ture was going. You think Kwame Ture never hide the fact that he was a socialist. Mm-hmm. He was a stone socialist. I don't agree with that part of Kwame Ture at all. I don't believe in the socialist theories. It's nonsense. That's being honest with you. I would never advance the state of black people anyway. That's just the truth, right? Yeah, I would never take on. Discarding what you think is bad because white man benefited from the oppression based on capitalism to adopt something from our other races, white man, because he was poor. No, because the same rhetoric is that rich white people, poor white people, still white people, still would oppress you. So Marx being poor and then own slaves didn't mean he didn't like you. He was still that. And his ideology is of a poor ideology. It will make you poor. And then you're trying to mind like Marx. That's not good.
RL says, but to be honest, I think Venezuela's socialism ideals were working until the US sanctions. No, they weren't working. What the US sanctions did would have sped up the crash, but it's not that they were working. The problem with socialism, they always say it is you run out of other people's money. That's always the problem. They saw it in those Scandinavian countries people love to quote. Those countries went heavy socialist in the 90s because they had a heavy capitalist boost in the 80s and previously. So they had a bolstering of money. They went down that left-wing side and they started to see that money diminish, dwindle, 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 and then they had to change back again. So I don't think that it was working. Now, here's how I think some socialists' policies work. In the way that we were attempting to do them in Trinidad and Tobago, I could see some of that working. In the way they do them in the Middle East, where it's not about taxes that are collected from various people and redistribute wealth. It's about some kind of national resource that is extracted and the wealth is absorbed on a national basis. And that wealth is dispersed throughout the society. I could see you attempting to do some socialist kind of tendencies with that. And I understand that's kind of what Venezuela was attempting to do with the oil. Here's the problem with that though, even on that basis. Who runs the company that extracts the materials? You see, how we were attempting, at least how we've done it for a lot of time in Trinidad and Tobago, is we allow the private companies for the most part to do that because they are efficient and able to do that. And when they do that, we tax them and use that money as the money we would take and disperse. What Venezuela attempted to do is, all right, when we allow the private company to extract it and we tax them, that private company is making some profit too. I think as a state, if we run it ourselves, we would be able to keep all of the profit and the state benefits more. But here's the problem. The state runs things like WASA. The state runs things like the licensing division. So when you put the state to attempt to run $1 billion oil and gas extraction business, you end up bussing. You end up with Petrotrin, where everybody and the dog making a $30,000 and you can't fire them. That's what state ownership does. You see, if it was that we could have lived in this fantasy world where we gave the governance over to God incarnate himself, and he does all things honestly and earnestly, and anything bad is just purely on a mistake level, then God himself could have run those state oil companies and dispersed the money to everyone and it would have been perfect. But unfortunately, there is no God that we can hire to run these things. All we have is Dr. Rowley and Tanticams. So when you hear people talk about socialism and the state and the government, and if we could help, when you understand, it's not we, it's you're asking us to believe that Dr. Rowley and his band of friends are going to get more money and give it all more to us. That's a hard ask for me. And that's what socialism is asking. That's what socialism is asking.
Yeah, and I see the thing about Dubai now. Dubai is not a country. Dubai is a city in the United Arab Emirates. And Dubai is an absolute monarchy, but the United Arab Emirates is a federal constitutional monarchy where there's a council that comes together and elect a president. So,
and listen, the UAE is a different beast, you know. Those countries aren't like Trinidad, and you don't go in Dubai and say you have rights to anything. Dubai tells you how you live in Dubai. That's how Dubai does it. If you had me as the supreme dictator of Trinidad and Tobago, where all the money basically is mine, of course I could do it too. I could give you free things. I'm the supreme dictator. So Dubai is a hard one. If you're willing to allow for Dr. Rowley to be our monarch, if you're willing for that we'll now call Dr. Rowley Dr. the Honorable Sheikh His Magnificent Excellency Sheikh Rowley. We want that. He's our supreme leader. And what he says goes. If you're willing to do that, I am sure if we give Dr. Rowley that power, we will see certain benefits in the country. I believe that. We will see benefits.
It is a different beast, Nathan. But I think how you see the thing about West Asia that people still not understanding is that it's quite homogeneous in how the culture operates. They are very Muslim. Majority of the people agree with what their supreme leader puts out there because it follows what their cultural religion states.
Muslim and Arab. There is ethnic and religious unity there. And again, just like we point out with Finland, the United Arab Emirates isn't like these people just appeared here and they slapped these people together from a random group of random things over. No, these guys were running sub-Saharan slaves since the Middle Ages. These people have been here doing their thing for a while. So, again, a hard comparison to make. And even with Dubai, they could have only done what they did by opening up some free market in the last day.
Them Western Asian countries, they don't like socialism. they like I think what happens with Muslim countries, they like aggressive capitalism. They like it how they want it. They don't want a westernized capitalism.
Well, you see, Islam by its very nature provides a kind of socialism on the religious side. And I always talk about this. I don't have a problem with collectivism in and of itself. I just think collectivism's place is not politics. With my religious group, I am a collectivist. That's the nature of nearly any religion. If you are a member of a religious organization or a religion, you are almost surely a collectivist with your religious group. But that's the whole idea. The collectivist side is supposed to be left to that area, not to the politics. Or else, as you see, a lot of countries also think socialism is a solution to their heavy segregation and wealth inequality. Yeah, people think so. But no, like, if you think about this reasonably, if the wealthiest people in the country are the political class, and in socialism, what we are trying to do is get the political class to control all the wealth of the country and redistribute it equally. What makes you think that the wealthiest people already, who are wealthy because they keep the most of the wealth that comes their way, what makes you think that anything you say, write down, sign, placard down, believe, anything like that, what makes you believe that you could get them to take more of your money and redistribute it more fairly? That's a very illogical train of thought.
To be honest, that creates more wealth inequality and more
It does. It does.
Because the way how some black liberals think, especially radical black liberals who believe in Marxist-Leninist thought, that wealth inequality will go down. You see how they're projecting that by 2050 black wealth will be at zero? That will be at negative 20%, because the road some radical black liberals going down, inequality will become drastic. You'll have black people in a racial Great Depression, because what are you trying to do? Disperse what? The politicians will literally sit there, eat high off the hog, and distribute nothing.
And that's the thing. Some people seem not to understand that. You encourage this attempt at collectivism and sometimes an attempt at a piecemeal version of it, and you're the one that gets the shitey end of that collectivist stick. They take all of you as a collective and throw you in plannings and tell you all go live like sardines in a can. Because it's a collective. The government supply this housing for you. We as a country see you and see your plight. You need a house. So we give you this housing and we pack you in real tight there. We are all one together collective. While they live in their mansions separately. And you out there asking for more. More housing. Government need to make more housing for the poor people. The government need to give me a house. So they pack you in again. Now they have a Maloney. The bill next one, they put the bill at John. The bill next one, the bill at Beverly Hills. The bill next one, the bill at Plannings in Vancouver. The bill next one, the bill this one in South. And everyone, the bill is a little crime hotspot. But no, government need to build housing for the poor people. I need a how it is? I'm sleeping in the hospital and I need a house.
Yeah, if people don't know this, there was a city in China that was an enclave, literally ungoverned. It was a walled city, and listen, the people were living in. I didn't even see poverty before, but if you'll actually go and look it up, Google it, the walled city in China, it was literally ungoverned to the point where it was total lawlessness. In China, that's what wealth inequality does when it comes to socialism. Because all the politicians who talking about we are for the people and we are for the workers, the proletariat, and we are come to fight the bourgeoisie, but they are the bourgeoisie.
Yes,
they're no longer the proletariat because Mao Zedong might have come from a family. By the time he was a supreme leader, he was eating steaks.
And he came from a wealthy farming family, just by the way. He was either an only child or one of very few children. So he grew up in relative wealth. When you listen the history of many of those Marxists, the history is common. A lot of them are children of wealthy people. You kind of have to be a child of a wealthy person to have the amount of time, to spend the amount of time reading the kind of nonsense you need to read to fully buy into that Marxist kind of thing. It's nearly always the children of the wealthy that do that kind of stuff. Reeve, what loses you about the Marxism, bro? I can't tell what are you lost about there. And we didn't talk about Freud there. You're bringing Freud out of hand. We didn't mention Freud. But Marxism, what's losing you about that? The reason I speak about Marxism so is because I see the influence permeating so strongly in our culture. The university, I would blame a lot for that. The university is a little Marxist training ground.
Yeah, because the Caribbean is the worst place to attempt Marxist Leninist thought. You could do it in America, do that there. You know what I'm saying? There, the Caribbean can't afford to even attempt to think. Not even attempt to do. They can't even attempt to think because you can have a crime rate of 600 plus murders and you want to talk about wealth inequality and we must take from the bourgeoisie to disperse because we need to give to the sealer. No. That's not how it works. That's not how you kill crime. That's not how you do this nonsense. Need to stop. You really need, man. Because that's not how you get anything done. It's
Well,
money.
here's the thing. I think one of the things that Gate would have allowed for Trinidad is to seriously boost the amount of progressive thought, the amount of modern progressive, as in what Americans call progressive thought in the Caribbean, because a lot of those Gate students who went through the university system, they were introduced to a lot of that. So that's why I think Trinidad may be further in a lot of those views than many other places. Call DJ Bravo. Well, if ever you can't make it, if ever you're struggling to make a payment, you know who to call. I never learned none about Marxist and Nietzsche or whatever. I had to bring a notebook for mindful class. Well, the thing is, I think you should learn some about that for one. I think that should be taught. And the problem with some of it is a lot of it is taught not in the direct. Not in the direct. It's taught as in just as understood as being a factual matter. So certain issues in social studies, the way how they are taught as in a default understanding using a Marxist worldview. If you understand what I mean. So it's like you could say that, all right, you didn't learn about Christianity in this school. This school doesn't teach about Christianity. Nobody told me in this school about anything about Jesus Christ and anything directly about Christianity. But the school taught you a principle on sin. And they taught you that if you sin, you go to a bad place, and if you don't sin, you go to a good place. Okay, they may not have directly taught you Christianity, but they taught you the principles of Christianity. And you may come out of the school with a Christian worldview, not necessarily understanding that you were taught a Christian worldview, but it is. I don't know if you understand the nuance of what I'm saying there. You could be taught something without necessarily being told what you thought is this thing. And the people who are teaching you it don't even necessarily have to know that they're teaching you this thing too.
They
And a lot of our automatic assumptions in thought, especially when you get into advanced education and social issues, a lot of the assumptions that are made are default Marxist. Default. And it's because a lot of the people in universities are Marxists themselves. The Marxists, when they had the sexual revolution and all the hippies and stuff in the 60s, they didn't disappear. All those hippies and Marxists and free love weed smokers didn't all disappear. No, they went into the universities and became teachers.
No, because I think that's it. Like when okay, government is where Marxist Leninist thought kind of permeates, right? And when you give the government an opportunity to run your education system, that's what they're going to do. Obviously, right? They want comrades, right? Obviously. So, going up the chain and they start to get worse and worse until they hit college, obviously. So that's just how it is. You understand what I'm saying? People ask the question all the time, how they get to infiltrate the schools. No, they didn't infiltrate anything. Governments kind of inherently, well, many politicians kind of inherently follow Marxist Leninist thought.
Well, Trini, if you think about it, what Marxist Leninist thought basically states, to some extent, I mean, there are all kind of different tangents, but a basic thing is that the solutions come from the state. That's a basic concept of Marxist Leninist thought. The solutions to basically everything comes from the state. And then that's what the government would believe. Reeves says, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know the principle behind the idea, so I wouldn't know how to. I gotcha. So if the government is to teach something, if the government is to teach about how to solve problems with the weather, what is the government going to tell you the solution to the weather is? More government power. If the government sees problems with crime, the government is going to tell you the solution to that is government power. And then if you have a government deciding that they are going to educate all the children in the country, what kind of solutions would they teach the children are the best solutions for problems? So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, okay, if you go to a Catholic school, would it be any surprise if by the end of 7 years in a Catholic school, you have a lot of beliefs that lean towards Catholicism? I mean, if you don't, I would say the Catholic school isn't doing their job properly. So if you go to a government school for the entirety of your life, wouldn't your belief be in government? And then when you add to that the reality that Trinidad is, you could have gone to a government school your entire life, and right out of a government school you get a government work. Your whole life is subsisting off of the government. That's what you live. The idea, you talk to some people that live like that, the idea that, you don't have to have a government job, you could go out there and show your skills to people and let them give you money for it. The idea of living like that sounds like immensely risky. Wait, so at the end of the month I don't get a paycheck? What do you mean I don't get a paycheck? I have to depend on people to give me money. No, 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 no. That sounds too risky for me, yes? Too risky. You tell somebody like that, and the idea of doing that is unheard of. You tell them that, you could educate your own child. You could teach. What do you mean educate your own child? And how they go, and how they go, and how they go, how they go learn this, how they will learn that, how they will socialize, how they would, and how they would, and how. Bro, what? Is your child? You educate them. But the concept of that seems unheard of. One of my favorite quotes I hold on to from a long time ago, I saw it, is a quote that says, if the government starts teaching, or the school, if government schools start teaching children how to walk, within one generation, we would believe that children wouldn't learn how to walk without it. And I solemnly believe that. Listen, if we start sending children to daycare from 10 months before they could walk, there's going to come out a series of scientific literature that teaches us the real professional walk trainers that we have in schools are way better than those crazy parents who want to home teach the children how to. How dare you you homework your child? Your child homeworked? No, 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 Gil, you don't do that. Your child is get K-foot and bandy leg if you homework them, boy. You ain't read the study that just come out. A study just come out saying that the best way for all children to learn to walk is within the government schools. And the children don't learn to walk good without the government school. And I believe that wholeheartedly. That's what would have happened if we did that. And that's what we see happening as it stands. A lot of people are sure that a lot of things that the government have taken control over cannot be done if the government doesn't do it.
I don't think it's actually people don't need necessarily. it's you see, what Marxist-Leninists thought really, it's an ideology, right? So it's a kind of cultural kind of thinking. So it has been ingrained within the Trinidad and Tobago society and many societies. Let's be real. Half of America kind of believes in Marxist-Leninist thought to some degree because they want the government to be Big Daddy, and that's just how it is, right? So the thing about it is yeah, literally, I hear Trinidadians every day. Government do this for me, and the government do that for me, and I'm wondering, why the government do that for you? What? And the government had to increase minimum wage for me because I need to buy milk. Huh? So at some point we had to realize that where we think when the behaviors and norms is, because it's like, brethren, why you having a problem with your government is the fact that you lean on them too much. You are dependent on them too much. So since you are dependent on them too much and they're not really your father, they don't have to do anything for you necessarily. They can mismanage you any day of the week. It's like having a toxic relationship with your government. Every day your government come home from work drunk. I said, slap in the face. I said, leave off sight for me, please. Go on, I don't want to hear you. Money for you. Nothing. I'll get you money next week. And that money you'll never see next week. So it's like that. You know what I'm saying? So you all have to realize you want to come off the abusive relationship. You know what I'm saying? With your government.
Agreed. Get out of that abusive relationship with your government. Anyway, people, we looking to run into and wrap into a close there. What's your closing statements there, Trini Hotep?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think all Trinidad really had to do for me is think a little deeper about the thing, man. Yeah, just think a little deeper about the thing. You understand? Just look, sit down for a moment and say, is this really how the country is supposed to be operating? Are we supposed to just be in the cycle of arguing with the government, then come vote in the same government, and then argue with the government some more? You understand what I'm saying? So it really comes down to if you can be mindful or mindless in that regard. You understand what I'm saying? Because, brethren, this toxic citizens need to stop being in toxic relationship. And Rowley is running one of the most toxic relationships possible. with real punching. Man having real punching. I'm saying he's an alcoholic. God is like an alcoholic man. God is like an alcoholic service man.
Oh, good. An alcoholic serviceman, yes?
Yes, that's God, bro. You can't tell me that God. Especially when everybody paying him.
I feel like the next jersey we had to make. God is like an alcoholic serviceman. God is like having a relationship with an alcoholic serviceman. Jeez. Yeah, bro. RL, we talked about the oil spill last night, you know, and I look around today and no questions answered. They say they don't believe any souls on board. So how the ship run aground? Where the ship come from? How the ship carrying oil? Whose ship is this? Is a ghost ship. But sure that ghost was making money off of that ship though. And if it had ghost ships out there, no wonder guns and drugs could come in the country easy. So you telling me a whole ship could be sailing in on the end of Trinidad and Tobago, in between Trinidad and Tobago, next to Scarborough, the capital of our second major isle. And we don't know? We don't know who it is, what they're doing, what they was doing, they what. All right, okay. Okay, cool. I feel like if I were to pick up myself and jump on a boat and sail across in Trinidad waters randomly, I feel like I bad lucky enough the Coast Guard going to stop me and ask me what I doing there. But some of these fellas were just so lucky. Nothing of the like. Okay. I would pee on me and tell me it's rain. All right, people. As Trini Otep says, be mindful, not mindless. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live tomorrow evening. Reeve, I believe I'll be here next week. And I mean, I'm not going anywhere. So I believe I'll be here inside nice. That's why I always say inside real nice. I like inside. I like my house. All right, people. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This was the Mindful Live. I am Nathan Springer. Thank you guys for joining in. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, stay well.